For this step we will need all 6 hull parts, part A, B, C, D, E and F, as well as all of those red connection plates, 40 if you build the ship as a whole structure, or 33 if you build it in 2 halves that will be separable. If you build it separable, you will also need this TPU gasket or some 1 by 3 millimeter moss rubber tape. As tools we will just need some glue. As always I'm using Uhu Heart, as I found out it will work perfectly fine for PLA in my case, and most other plastics too. I will show you the step once and then you will repeat it for all of those seams. So basically you just put a red plate in each slot. They should slide in fairly easily. Then we will put a seam of glue on the inside of those plates. It should be a complete seam, so it will be watertight later on. And on the outside you can also put glue there, but not too much, otherwise you will have to sand it off later. So I will repeat this step for all the seams. I already put them in there for test purposes, so I won't do that again now, it's already glued. So you should have now something that looks like this. You have some here, there, there, and also there. As said, if you want to make it one hull that is not disconnectable, put one in this side or that side, either one of those, doesn't matter, and glue them in there so you don't lose them later on. Now we will start adding the parts to each other. So as I said, I will put a nice glue seam on there. Can be a fair amount of glue. Make sure it's all connected in one seam so it's watertight later on. I will add some also on the outside. Just a bit, so we don't need too much filler. And then they should push together easily. You can either clamp it together if you have really long clamps. I don't have them that are long enough, so I will press them together for a few seconds and then stand them by the side and put a weight on top. You can just stand them on the flat surface. You can make sure that all the pieces are aligned nicely, but they should align quite well. As you see, if you press the seam together, it's all aligned. If not, you have a few hundreds of a millimeter wiggle room, but if your printer is configured good, it should fit just nicely. Do the same for the other connections. Put glue all around this hole. I will put some more on the surface just because it's near the motors and there is more vibration expected. Put some glue on there. Nothing will connect here, so you don't put glue on those pieces. And again, push it in there. Aligns nicely. Press it together tightly as the glue usually activates on pressure. Here's some excess glue. I just wipe it off. And I lost a piece there. Put it back. Take the last glue seam. I just take this one without the plates because they are a bit hazard to handle if they are loosely. Here the plates are quite close to the inner side of the boat, so it's easier to use this one without the plates. So I can put a closed glue seam there. Use a good amount as well because it's the part that houses the engines and you don't want the vibrations to separate the pieces. I don't think it will happen, but you can never be sure enough. Align the pieces again, push them together, look for excess glue, like here. Whoop. Wipe it off and place it vertically by the side with the weight on top. It's not as easy to balance, but I'm sure it's possible somehow. Pieces are also nearly the same height, except for 0.5 millimeter, I think, so you can balance a board or something on top with the weights. If you want to build it one part, you just glue them two halves together with some red plates again. And that's it. When those plates are, when those hull pieces are glued together and the glue is hardened, I will see you again. The next steps will be the main gun batteries, of which we have 2. Each houses 3 turrets. I will show you how to build one, and the other one is exactly the same, except for that those deck plates look a bit different, but the mechanics are exactly mirrored. They fit in both plates. So I will show you one step now. We will need 2, so you can always repeat the separated steps twice. I will show you once, you do it twice, then you skip to the next step. That's why we always need 2 of the corresponding parts, or the amount twice. We need 2 of those servo housing pieces, 2 of those pieces of the ground plate. We need the deck halves A, B, C, and D, as well as 6 of those. As a tool, we just need some glue. So the only difference between the front and back gun battery will be the shape of the deck. So A and B connect and C and D connect. It's easy as that. I will show you A and B. Put the rest aside. So we will start with those plates, just flip them around. As you already see, this one's standing on its own. This will flip over. They have those pillars here attached that will hold off any harm from the gears and stuff when everything is installed later on, so you can place them on the table just like that and nothing happens. Make sure that those surfaces are completely clean from supports. We need all the space we can get. And then we just covered the whole top surface, including those rings, with glue. Should be a lot of glue. If mine decides to come out of the tube, and there we go. Do the same on the other part. Then we will also put some glue on this surface. Now we stick those pieces in there. You can twist them a bit to push the glue in place. Then we will add another ring of glue just around them. We flip it around and push them through those holes. They fit quite snug, but that will ensure that this plate is in the correct space. Press it on there, set it aside, push this one in there, turn it around, add some glue, push it in there, make sure that it's kind of straight, but don't worry, it will align as soon as we connect the rest. Now we will add some glue on this seam, not that much, it should be a connected glue seam, it has to be watertight. Okay, it's better from the other direction. Align it, and you can place it on a flat surface and push it together. It's important that the upper side of the deck as well as this seam align. The rest of the mechanics has some play, so this here doesn't have to align perfectly. So now we do exactly the same on the other half. I would advise you to put it vertically to let the glue harden so it will not move in any direction. I will set it aside and do the next step, as well as you. I'll see you when we're done. The next step is just some preparation work. We will need a 1 male to 3 female cable for servos and stuff. As tools we need a sharp knife. Let's get onto it. So first off we want to take this cable and pull a little bit out. Separate them. Only do that to 2 of those, so the middle one stays untouched. We have to cut out the red cables of both of those. The reason being, we use 3 ESCs and each of those will try to feed power to the receiver and to the servos. That will result in a short circuit and we will fry our electronics. So we only let 1 red cable from 1 ESC connected, and then everything will be fine and work as intended. So just cut it out. So now accidental connection is made. Do the same on the other side. We could also do that on the ESCs directly, but we don't want to mess with them, so you can use them in another project if you like. So it should look like this, only brown and yellow, or black and white in case of the other coloring, depending on what you buy, it doesn't matter. Either way, cut out the red ones, and this one stays like it is. Perfect, we're done here. For the next step we need the 3 motors, type 550 in size in my case. The printed parts are the motor mounts A and B. I printed them in ABS, you can print them in any heat resistant material. So normal PLA will not suffice, as those motors can get warmer than 60 degrees Celsius. We will need 6 bolts, ISO 4762, DIN 912 or whatever, so those flathead sunk screws, M3 by 10 millimeters, as well as an Allen key as a tool for those bolts. Now the step is pretty easy, let's get onto it. We will just mount the motors on the motor mounts. Easy as that. Just make sure that the orientation is correct. Drop in the screws on the sides. And bolt them on. Okay, I will just put the motor off again and I will look for it. It's easier that way. Now that I have broke through, I will align the motor again and bolt it down. One's done, 2 to go. one doesn't really want to come through. Yeah, it had some filaments stuck in it, so just pushed it through. This side is up. It's important for the same orientation as this motor. So it's not important for the performance of the boat entirely, but we want it to look nice and organized, right? And onto the last motor. Perfect, so now the motors are mounted in their brackets. So we put them aside and continue with the next step. The next step, we will need the aft section of the hull, or the complete hull, depending on how you built it. We need the motors and their mounts. We need the drive shafts, and as tool we just need some glue. Now, if you order the same drive shafts as I linked in the download files, you can, but don't have to mount this grease input or this grease valve. In this case, you need a 3.3mm drill for hardened steel, as well as an M4 thread cutter. If you have printed the whole project, you will have a small red alignment aid that you can put on there, just like that, to drill or to start your hole, so it's in the middle and the thing doesn't roll around. I already did that, and just to show you that you can install those drive shafts even though they're even though you have the thing in the way. So first step will be to put them in there. You can just wiggle a bit around, they will fit. And we push them through all the way. Repeat the same for the other holes. Now we will put in the motors for the test fit. First we put in the middle one. It just slides in there easily. Then we can drop in the other two. There's a bit of tighter fit, but that's fine. Starts to come together nicely. So now for a test fit we can push those in there. Now those long holes will come into play. As you may see, you can install the coupling through this hole. It's just large enough so the Allen key can fit through. So we push this one back also. You can turn the drive shaft from the outside of the boat so you can get your fingers around the coupling. This coupling seems to be a bit close, so I will have to open the one screw here. Now it fits. You push it through completely until you hear a click when they hit the motor. Pull it back a millimeter or so. Make sure you align those vertical. You can flip the boat around now. Everything seems to be in place. And it should look like that. I have to check again because those two are not symmetrical. And that's because the shaft is not symmetrical in the coupling. So it's not a problem at all. And we'll pull those back so they sit flush with this motor coupling, or the motor mount. It looks nicer. And the middle one, shaft. Yeah, okay. We put the shaft so it's like 1.5 centimeters out here. Sorry, that's bullshit. It has to be here because of the depth of the rotors or of the screws. So now that we have the test fit, see that it looks kind of symmetrical. Now it is. Now we will close the worm screws. So the inner drive shaft sits nicely on the motors. And you see, we have to push them more to the inside, like this. Maybe I have to turn them a bit to get to the flat part of the motor. As you can see, the Allen key fits in here. I can turn the motor, so that's on. That's not on the flat part of the motor yet. It looks better. Now we screw those self-securing nuts off. Take the screws, push them under in the test fit. And it should sit so that the aft side of the screw should sit flush with the end of the thread. Otherwise you won't get the screw locked in place correctly. Looks good on all of them, so we don't have to adjust the dog. So the brass part here. We have roughly 1 centimeter of space here. We make a note of that. So it's, for the other ones, it sits flush with the surface. It's running perfectly, so we'll have to adjust it a bit. It looks like the production of the manufacturer was a bit off, because I know the hull is not crooked. So I just push the dog aft for 2 millimeters, just enough space for the screw. And now they're symmetrical, That's more like I like it. So those sit flush with this surface. This one has 1 centimeter of space. We'll make a note of that. Open the screw in the dog. And push it on the thread so you don't lose it. That's enough. Now we can push those outer casings of the drive shafts out a bit. Well, if the fit allows for it, that's fine. We will add some glue to the drive shaft. Doesn't have to be a lot. It's just to counter some movement and vibration. Do the same here. So it gets pulled in those pieces. And later on, we coat it in paint. We will make sure that it's watertight in there. So now we push those back. You can turn them a bit, wiggle. Now we do the same on the inside. We push them completely as far out as we can. Put a drop of glue on each of the drive shafts. And wiggle them in again to get back to the position we want. So like 1 centimeter here. And flush with this surface here in the outer motors. So now we can push the dogs back on. They also have a flat surface here where you can screw them down. They should sit flush against the outer casing. Now you see this washer here is a bit loose. That means I have to push the outer casing a bit more to the outside. So there's too much play in this case. So now we have our drive shafts and motors installed. Push them in again, lay it on a flat surface until the glue is cured. That's important now. And we can continue with the next step. For the next step you need your ESCs, your hull, those 3 ESC brackets and some glue. The step is simple. You add glue on the base of those brackets, drop them in there, drop the ESCs on top so you can adjust them. The whole idea of those is to keep the maybe running hot ESCs away from the PLA hull. Those are as well printed in ABS or any heat resistant material you have on hand. Just a thin line of glue. I will push that basically to the front. Okay, so it's roughly there. I looked that there's some play both sides. That's fine. Nothing will slide around later because all the cables will hold it in place. Do the same on this side. Put it kind of parallel to the other side. Test fit looks good. So we can set it aside and let it cure. For our next step we need again the hull with the pre-installed stuff, the threaded rod bracket, 4 bolts and 3x10 and an Allen key that fits, or a power drill. I'm lazy, so I do that. Bracket goes here and needs to be bolted down, so it's easier to put the bolts in outside of the hole. Before I drop it in. In your case, the bolts shouldn't be press fit, they should have some space between them. In my case, it was just that I got a new printer and the Z-axis was not calibrated correctly. That's why this part is a bit too small in this direction, but it doesn't matter, it should work anyways. Put all 4 in bit so it holds in place. Go on one of the lowest settings. And we have this bracket installed. That will be needed later to hold the superstructure in place. As you see, with this mounting point, this one, and those 2. For the next step, we need one stranded servo, your hull, 4 of the M3 Titan bolts, as well as an Allen key or your power drill. Don't wonder, this part was printed without supports, which was a mistake on my side. In your parts, the supports are added, so it's a tight fit for the servo. In your case, it should just fit right in. So what we need to do, we feed this cable through here. Right below the deck, there's a small slot where it can fit through. Got it on the first try. Then we put the cable in there. As I said, it's a tight fit because the holding point for the servo didn't come out quite well without supports. Oh, it worked. In your case, it should be easier. Then we need to bolt it down. And this step is done. So for the next step, we will need the 2 turret assemblies that are finished until this point. We need 6 of those lift rings, the ones you can print in each color, the bottom ones. You need 6 barrel holders, 12 barrels, 18 of the turret clips. Hardware will be 18 M3x10 bolts, and as tools we will use some glue and an M3 Allen key or power drill. So let's get straight to it. I will put that out of the frame so I can show you better what's up. We will just put one of the clips on each M3 hole, 3 per turret base. And we want to make sure we bolt them down in the opened position, not in the closed position, because we later need to push it through. it doesn't matter if they twist like that. We will open them up later on again. It's just important that they don't stay over the edge of the turret hole. So this one is done. Let's go to the next one. They should not slide now. So, because they should not block the holes when we do the next steps. So now that this is done, we can flip it around, open our glue, put just a tiny drop each of those sides. Maybe you don't need glue at all. It's held in place pretty good. And you push it in all the way to the bottom surface. Repeat it 5 times more. And we can, if they sit firmly, we can flip it around now. If not, we have to wait a few minutes until the glue starts to strengthen so it holds them in place. I know it holds tightly in my case, so I'll flip them around because you need them now as a holder for the barrels. Next, will be just putting 2 barrels in each of the barrel holders, and so they can harden in place, and straight we can later balance them on here so they don't have a flat surface. You want to make sure that every bit of support material is removed from this portion of the part, otherwise it won't be straight and sit flat on the holder part. And I was a bit sloppy while removing the supports in the first place, so I have to do that now. Add some glue to the surfaces. It's important to put some on the large surface, so this one. Just like that we get a strong bond. Do the same with the other barrel. If there's any excess glue, wipe it off. Turn it a bit. Make sure that the tips of the barrels are level, otherwise it will look like crap. Make sure that they are straight. Then you can balance it on there to cure. Repeat this process 6 times. I think it's just easier you put the glue on this surface. There will be some more excess, but it's easier to just put it there. Or maybe faster. I will try. Nope, doesn't work like that. Also, the balancing doesn't work, so I think I might print a tool for that later. Check for alignment. Looks good this time. Oh, it kind of works. Just store it there. So maybe when you do it, don't put the cured stuff directly below your working space. I just have to do it because of the framing of the video. If you also encounter the problem of stringing on those parts, as I did, you can just burn it off with a lighter later on. I just don't have one at hand right now. It happens because there's really short layer time in the upper layers of those barrel prints. Just 2 to go. For the next step, we need the 2 turret assemblies, as well as those 5 deck planking parts. As tool, we need some glue and maybe some clamps or cloth hangers, depending on how the fit will be. So this step is quite straightforward. We just glue the decking parts on the deck. Start with the smallest part because I already lost it twice in preparation for this video. Come on, so the glue is clogged, unclog it. Oh, come on now. Now it works. Just a tiny amount of glue. It is not load bearing. Put the smallest piece on there. Make sure that it's straight and centered. And we continue with the next part. This one. Put some glue on. Kind of in the corners. Don't use too much so it doesn't squeeze out. Should be evenly distributed. Put it on there. Wiggle it around a bit. Make sure that it's straight. Continue with the next part. Put a seam of glue in each corner. and put it over the turrets. It's a pretty tight fit in my case, but they have 0.2 of a millimeter of play in each direction. But that's just the difference in the configuration between those parts printing upright and those printing flat on the heat bed. So in this case I will need a clamp. More cloth than I should do, but grab the plank. So you see it kind of bounces off here. Clamp it down. Everywhere else it seems to sit flat. So I can put it away to let the glue cure. You can also just stand the piece up if you don't have any clamps that reach around and put something a bit heavier on there. Should also work. The planks are only 0.8 millimeters thick, so they are pretty flexible. Then we continue with the next one. Make sure that those edges align. And here we can see again the discrepancy between printing flat and printing upright, because the models are completely edge to edge. So I think that's just a discrepancy of my printer, as well as maybe this glue seam here, but I think it should not be that annoying on the model when it's finished. Otherwise, if it's too much in your case, you can just print one of those plates again and cut a small piece off. Maybe I will do that later, but I think nobody will notice. So now the step is done, and we will continue with the next one. For the next step, we will need the 2 halves of the hull, as well as our half-finished turret assemblies, and those parts of the decking, as well as this one and this one. So I will just take it off screen. We prepare by placing the turret assemblies in their slots to close off the deck, because we need them to make sure that there's enough play for them to open and close. So we start with the bow end. The decking will be on there as follows. We want to make sure that they align kind of straight, that we have some play on this opening, and that we have 0.8 millimeters roughly, you don't have to measure that, on the complete outer edge that will be needed for the railings in later installation. So we just start from the middle in this case, because we have a fixed point. We add a nice seam of glue all around, not too much, we don't want to have it squeezing out. Make sure that there is a drop on each end of the piece, so it doesn't peel off the hull. So now we've gone around once. Make sure we are in the middle and have our space for the railing. That's good. Continue at the bow. That should be more than enough. Maybe just a drop more on the bow directly. Drop it on there. Align with the back piece. Press it on. Check for the clearance for the railing. Line again and continue on the small pieces on the back. That was way too much. In this case, it's correct that the small piece stands over for 2 millimeters or so to the back of the boat. It's just to hide this seam of the contact of the two bow halves or two hull halves a bit. Make sure the line's in again. And the curvature of the deck is so minimal, I didn't even need weights or clamps anywhere. You can just test by pressing on each part again with your fingers softly. It should sit completely flush on the deck. Now I will set that away for curing. Continue with the aft end of the boat. The decking will be on as follows. Here we will find our 2mm that are missing from the front. That will be position of the decking. I will again start in the middle. Align it for the space of the railing. Continue with the small parts here. And up to the last part. Watch for alignment with this hole. Test that everything sits firmly on the curvature. And it does. Splendid. Set it aside to cure. Continue with the next step. For the next step we need our turret assemblies again, as well as those 4 pieces of TPU gasket. If you didn't print the TPU parts and bought the foam rubber tape instead, you will use that. As tools we need just some glue and whatever piece that fits in here so we can press the gasket on the glue. So we will start by adding just a tiny amount of glue on the TPU. Doesn't have to be much. Just has to hold it in place. I put the glue on the top surface, which is more rough, so that the surface that touched the print plate, which is more even, will be our sealing surface later on. Now we use this thing to press in. Start from the front so it lays flat. Same with the next piece. We start from the back again to press it on. Because we want to close this gap where the two parts connect. No, TPU is an elastic material, so we have to cause the alignment ourselves. Perfect. Now this piece is sealed and we go on to the next one. So now we're done. Let the glue cure and continue with the next step. While the glue is curing on the turret assembly gaskets, we can prepare the next step. We need 6 of the turret bases, 6 turret cores, the 6 barrel assemblies that we already did. Then for single parts we have the 6 printed turret gaskets from TPU. If you didn't use TPU, you will use some foam rubber tape again. Then we have the 6 lifting rods, 6 lifting pins, 6 and 3x10 bolts. And as tools we will use some pliers, which are pretty flat at the bottom, a small hammer, and an Allen key or power drill. So let's get into it. First we will start by putting the lifting pins in the rods. So I will sit it on the hole. It's a pretty tight fit. When it's in completely, it should be just as high on the outside as this lifting rod is. Do that 6 times. It will just fit through here. Oh, was it all around? We will start by building the lifting mechanism. So this one right here, which is a bit more on the tricky side. So what we want to do is we push this rod through here, so the opening faces the direction of the guns. You can place it on the side. Then we will take one of the pins with our pliers, make it basically flush on one side. We set the turret on our edge of the table, line the pin to the hole, press it down so our turret doesn't fall off. Then we need to hammer the pin in. So should look like that. You need to do it this way because the pin won't go through this hole otherwise. That's intended, so it locks the turret in place. Yeah, we will do that another 5 times. You will see me doing it 4 times because I already did one for testing purposes. So now that we did this, we can now add the barrels. The side with this long hole will be facing upwards. So you can hold this one like here with one finger. Align one of those cones with the corresponding hole. Press together on the back side a bit so it will slide in. There's just enough space. Do the same on the other side. Align it with one hole. Press it in. And we're done. There is a lot of play, but it's better when there's later 3 turrets turning at the same time. So there's no snagging. Do that again, and again, and again. This direction. Align the cones. Press on the back. Snap it in place. Works nicely. So now we can continue by adding the turret's core. We just align the long holes. It can only go on in one direction. Drop a bolt in from the top. Okay, maybe it's easier to drop the bolt in first before the core is on there. Okay, they don't stick, so I take the pliers. Align the holes and screw it in completely. When that's mounted, we will add the gasket. If you don't need to glue them; they will be held in place. If you don't use the gasket, use the foam rubber tape to cover exactly this outer circle here. So the outer circle of the red part. Do that again a few times. It also doesn't matter in which direction you put the PU gasket, because it doesn't really have a sealing purpose. It's just to adjust the pressure in which with which the turrets are held in place, so they don't rotate on their own once the driving mechanism is disengaged. So now our 6 turrets should look like this. You can lift them, you can lower them. There's the gasket. Nice. Now we can continue with the next step, which will be inserting the turrets into the turret bases. For the next step we need our 2 main gun decks, 2 servos, 1 servo extension cord, that should be 20 centimeters long or 25, and 8 M3x10 bolts. As tool I will get my power drill again, or you can use a hex key. You will basically just be mounting the servos in their places. So just slip the wire through, push the servo in, and screw it down. In my case, the receiver will be on the aft end of the boat. This is the front, this is the aft part. So I will put the extension cord on this piece. You can route the servo cables through here to make it a bit nicer and to keep them away from the moving parts. And I will add the extension cord to the front part, just so we have it in place. I will be routing the back side of the cable to our direction, no particular reason. While we are at cabling, I can tell you, you see this one hole here. It goes straight through the bridge, the steering floor. And if you want to, you can route some wires through there for an LED to illuminate the bridge. It is in both parts, but only on the bow part it is used. On the aft part it is not used. It was just to use the same part twice here. Okay, now I see this cable is also a bit short, so you need two extension cables. One here and one here. I will get one and put it on there off screen. So now the servos are installed, and let's continue with the next step, which will be inserting the turrets. Now we add the turret gaskets. To do this, we just put a tiny amount of glue on the surface. I just do one speck on each, let's say each pole, and then we adjust it so it's exactly in the middle, so that this ring stays free. Do the same stuff 5 more times. The orientation of the gasket is completely inadequate. It doesn't matter because it does not really have a sealing purpose. It's just a compression disc on which we can later adjust the force it takes to rotate the turret. So it kind of breaks, so the turret doesn't turn on itself. It stays put in the direction you adjusted it to. I think it's the safest to glue this stuff. So to ensure it doesn't stick to the lifting bolt, that the 4 specks of glue are basically on those corners, like here, there, here and there, so not in the front. So if you squeeze something out, it doesn't block the lifting mechanism. Nice. Now we put those away to let the glue cure. It doesn't have to cure completely. It doesn't have to be really hard. So maybe just wait a few minutes, grab coffee or something. And then I'll see you in a few minutes. So while the glue is curing completely, we can add the turret bases to this assembly. We just push them through from the top deck. Put those on there to lock it in place. And mount it. It should be able to spin freely, but it can't fall out anymore. Do that on the front and back assembly. If there's too much play in your turret, you can adjust it with those, so you can just press them on there with your 2 fingers while you tighten them down. Then, as you see, it turns really, really hard. So you can adjust it later. See, I didn't press on them, now it turns really easily. From the top side it looks like this. I will already adjust them so that one of those, which is longer, points to the tip of the assembly. So we just know in which direction we'll put our turrets later. Do the same on the other part. That was open a bit too wide. We adjust them again to point straight to the tip. And now our glue should be cured with the gaskets. So we start assembling them. So we will just put this ring on top of here. I will show you from the side. Those notches have to go in those grooves. That's a bit finicky. It's best if you do it standing flat. Look down from the side. Align the pieces. Push them in. And you mount one screw. Now it's turning really hard. So I can just loosen the screw a bit. That's what our TPU gasket is for. So those teeth lock into those grooves. And there's like 2 millimeters of play that you can adjust it in height. So by building pressure on this TPU disc, we can make the turret stay in place. That will be important later on for the, let's say, clockwork assembly. So we do the same again. Hold it like this. Set it on there. Oh, come on. Why are you not going in there? Oh, no, I got it. Okay, so now that those are assembled, we can see if we turn the turret, it lifts the gun up. If we turn it straight again, the gun goes down. With this one it works in both directions. You can also see when you turn the turrets 90 degrees, you see the small piece of the ring we just put on. It should sit evenly with the turntable. If it doesn't, just press on it gently with a not damaging tool. Perfect. Nice. Now we continue with the next one. It works well to adjust or to install the ring like this. Then hook under it with the red pin. Then it's already aligned in the front. And you can simply press it in with the turret top. Oh, it's sometimes a bit tricky to align. Nice, now we're done. Up to the next step. Now we'll press this disc on gently. Pay attention to the orientation. This rectangular marking should point outwards and the larger holes point in this direction. So we'll press it on. And we will fix it to the servo via the screw that was with it. Wonderful. Because of the blocks on the underside of the disc, so those two, this turret will only rotate to the outside and not to the inside of the ship. We will repeat the same procedure on this side. So we will gently press it on. I try to wiggle a bit because I do not want to destroy the gears of the servo. But it has to be a tight fit, otherwise this part will just rotate or when the servo is blocked. So now that those two discs are moving as intended, we move on to the front servo disc. It's the same again, the larger holes point in this direction. Want to make sure that our servos are straight. We wiggle it on. And we will use an M3 screw this time. So now they move synchronous. I may have pushed a bit too hard on this one. Those 9-gram servos are a bit fragile. So I really recommend you wiggle the part on. And I think to the release model I will edit the fitting of those parts again so they slide on easier. So now we will continue with the front rotation disc for the turret. That's the higher one. We will just drop in the M3 screws. And we bolt them down. Make sure again that the larger holes are in this direction. Basically it's just the marking that points forward. Then we go on to the outside discs for turrets. It doesn't matter on which turret you put them, just make sure that the larger holes point in this direction. So we drop in the M3 bolts. And mount them. Do the same on this side. Then we can start connecting the pieces. If you do not want to use those clip-in things, those brackets, you can also use wire. That's for what the smaller holes are. But you basically just clip them in. You want to make sure that the flat side that was touching your build plate is facing inwards. Repeat the same with each turret assembly. And then we're done with assembling. Now for detailing, we will add the lids to the turrets. For that we'll just add a small amount of glue to the long hole and align it with this long hole. The small 4mm hole should be right above the M3 bolt that is used to adjust the easiness of turret movement. We will repeat the same step on the other turret assembly. And then we're completely done with the turrets. For our next step, we just need the 3 superstructure parts, some glue, and 2 weights. In my case, I will use the batteries that I already have on hand. It's very simple. We just add some glue, not too much. We don't want too much squeezing out. This surface and to this one. We push them together, align them properly. Put the weights on. Let the glue cure and continue with the next step. For the next step, we place our turret systems on the hull. Then we need the superstructure we already assembled, as well as those 3 pieces from the main citadel. We start by placing those pieces on the hull. They will just sit there, they are not glued. So you want to make sure that this hole matches this hole, or that this porthole on the top deck is before this one. Just set it on there, drop it in. The back piece doesn't matter which direction you put it. Drop it on there. This one has those holes for the cranes and bow direction, but you see in the deck already the shape. Just drop it on there. And now we will just put some glue on there. You can already put some glue on this circle also. Then we just drop it on. And so you know, like, this flooring is a few millimeters larger than the decks, so we just align the holes. You can do that with either your M5 threaded rod if you have it cut already, or just with a piece like this, like a screwdriver or whatever. And we press it on gently but firmly. Take a look from every direction to make sure that it's in the middle, so it doesn't look crooked. Nice. So now we can take the funnel, which has no hole in there. Sorry, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the step. And we put it on there. Turn it a bit, so the glue gets a nice surface, and push it in the middle, align it with this hole. Then we're done with this step and continue to the next one. The next row of details we will be adding are the boats, 6 of them, as well as the breakwater. So we will start by turning those turrets like 90 degrees to the outside. Just have to face away from the boat. And the breakwater will be added like shown. You align it with this. Well, it's not shown the perspective, I can move the boat. You will align it with this corner. So it's on the piece you can remove. Align it on this corner. Like the piece which touches the deck flooring is aligned on this corner. And then you just put it against this one. But you leave a ½ millimeter or so of play here, because all the superstructure will come off to open the boat. So we will only put glue on the side that touches the deck flooring. I put way too much in there, so I wipe some off and use it for the other side. Just have to be careful with my fingers. Push it on by touching those pins, or the strengthening pins. Do the same on the other side. Now we can turn the turrets back. And we see there's just a bit of clearance, so it works. Then we will add the boats in this manner. We will start by the closed off ones. Doesn't have to be a huge amount of glue. And we will align them by length in the middle of this part of the superstructure. And we just make it fit so the ends of those wood blocks it sits on will be just on this edge. Do the same on the other side. This one sits just in the middle of the larger boat. And you have to pay attention that those wooden blocks don't overlap with this piece because there will go the railings on there later on. In my case it doesn't, it just looks like it from the phone's perspective, just so you know. Now we let the glue cure again. For the next step we need our masts, our cranes, this small mast, some glue, and a whole lot of clothes hangers, clamps, or anything similar to make it easier for us. So we will basically just put the halves of each of those items together. We don't need much glue, just a really thin film. Align it properly, press it on firmly. And then take some clamps or clothes hangers, clamp the stuff together. Check again that it's aligned properly. Set it aside, continue with the next one. Okay, so as it looks, I have to add glue on those wires as well. Otherwise they won't stick together. So here you can basically only use too much glue. That's why I need to wipe off the excess before clamping it together. It's a bit of a sticky situation, but what you gonna do? And don't worry about some glue strings like here. They just get a lighter and flame them off. They will just vaporize instantly. Properly align the stuff. Put some clamps on. Set it aside. Continue with the next crane. Continue with the masts. Those 4 pieces are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. Also connect those booms. You want to make sure that each of those booms and small twigs, let's call them that, is aligned properly. I'm just seeing it's basically impossible in my case because one piece is a few tenths of a millimeter distorted in one direction. But the models are completely mirrored, so it's to do something with the printer. So we clamp them together when they are aligned properly. So clothes hangers seem way more practical than those small C-clamps I got there. I think you don't need one for each section, but I'm overly cautious. To the second mast, do the same. And now we're done with this step. For the next step we need our superstructure in this state, as well as the cranes, this weird mast, those small struts for the main masts, as well as this radar installation, and some glue. You might need a small screwdriver or anything that has the right size to make this hole wider if your printer squished it a bit too tight. So we will start by pushing these in the masts. They have to sit exactly in the middle, so like this. Put a small drop of glue on there, much is needed. Push it in, adjust it. Put a drop of glue on the bottom and around the brim. And push it in there. Make sure that it sits straight and not at an angle. Now we add a small drop of glue to the radar installation here, as well as on the lower part of this cutout. Then we push it down the mast as far as possible. Then we continue with the next mast. The masts are completely symmetrical, by the way. So front or back doesn't matter, left or right doesn't matter. If you turn them, they are symmetrical in themselves. Add some glue to the bottom again, to the sides. Push it in there. Now we take the small mast, a small bit of glue. I use the excess glue of here. I'll put it in this alignment hole, make it touch the mast. I recommend putting a clamp or something there so it holds it together. This clamp is too strong. Yeah, it is. So I will see if it will work without a clamp. Next up will be the cranes. They will go to these holes. And it's up to you if you put them straight or at an angle. I will put them at an angle. I think it looks nicer. If you don't glue them, you can turn them around later on, because I think they should stay put. They have quite a tight fit. I would glue them in place. I will align them basically that the tip of the crane is above this edge. So the tip above this edge. Doesn't look like it from the video's perspective, but it is. Take a look from the side and make sure that it's straight. But if you push them as far in as they can go, they should be. So then this step is done, and we will continue with the next one. So for the next step, we will start putting the ropes on the masts. So we need all of those printed parts, as well as the superstructure assembly with the masts already attached. We will start with those two pieces. And the front mast, so this one, it will go on from this side, on the aft mast from the aft section. We will align this line with this piece of the mast. So the surfaces we need to glue are this one, the point where this corner sits, obviously on both sides, then each of the points in this line. So a glue with a finer nozzle is a really good idea, but I have no idea where my nozzle for this glue is. So now we put it on from the front. Line this top corners of the ends of those pieces of the mast. They sit roughly 1 millimeter to the inside. So as you see, it is not perfectly, come on focus, on the end of the mast. Then we will align those small, thicker pieces here. And this one now sits like it should. Looks roughly like this. And we do the same on the aft mast, just from the back side. Start from the top, align those small corners on the mast, press it against the mast, align those small specks. Nice. Now we can continue with those two rings. Now that we have the height, we add some glue and contact surfaces here. And this notch has to point upwards. And we will align this piece with its top side to the top side of this half ring. Press them together firmly so the glue makes a good contact. Do the same on the front. Just from the other direction, notch upwards. Line it up with the upper surface of the front half ring. Press them together nicely. Then we will take this piece for the front mast. Add some glue to those contact surfaces again, as well as to the top surface. And we will add it just below the half circle we just placed. Push it up against it. Make sure we don't destroy our alignment. And then we take something like a clamp or a clothes hanger to press all three together. Just fits. Just check if it doesn't move stuff around. Doesn't look like it. We will attach those ropes that are dangling around here now later when the glue has cured. We use this piece for the back. Do the same again. Add some glue to the contact surfaces, which are those two and the top surface. Push it against this ring we just placed. Take a cloth hanger. Destroy the alignment perfectly. So, stick it together. Now it should look kind of like this. As well as with the other one, those lines will be attached later. And there's one thing we can still do, which is adding this antenna to the front mast. We just need some glue on this longer edge. We will go under this short mast. Push it against there gently. Now we let the glue cure before we add the other small pieces and attach those bottom lines. Now we will add those little pieces of rope or wire to this piece of the mast, in the front and in the back. We will push them in those notches and then align them to the ends of this lengthwise strut. I'll show you from the side again. Push it in there, then align it with, as you see here, overlapping. They have to touch this mast piece from the bottom. In here and on there. Put some glue on the topmost surface, which is in contact with the mast, as well as a bit of a bigger drop to the surface. And then I will put it in this notch, push it up against the top, align it with my fingertips, and it should stay in place. Continue with the next one. You don't have to push this lower part and completely in the notch. There's a lot of play. You can adjust it in height because there are some inaccuracies in printing and gluing this stuff together. Now it should look like this. I'll do the same on the aft mast. If this strut is not straight or not even, you can always bend it a bit to make it come down. Add some new glue. Completely wiped it off there. So now that those two are done, we can continue by aligning those wires. I will start with the one that is closest to the mast. This one will be here in this front corner, on the inside of the railing. We will just put some glue on this top bit. The lowest, let's say 5 or 6 millimeters, are there to put some glue on. If we are lucky and there's not too much tension on it, it will stick already. I will just take a small screwdriver to press it against the wall where it sits. If there's too much tension on, you can always put a cloth hanger on there, like this, to make it press against. But in my case, it seems to fit just right, and I'm happy with that. Next, I will use the middle one, so the next, from the next closest to the mast. It will sit in this corner here. Again, add some glue. I used the rest that was oozing out there to conserve some glue. Again, I push it against this corner of my screwdriver. The next is the outer one, which will sit here, just on the end of this bridge part. Again, use some of the glue that I have oozing out. Push it against this outer part. Do the same on the other side. Start with the one that's closest to the mast. Push it against this corner. I'll take the next one. It's already getting a bit crowded here. I use some of my glue that's oozing out. Push it against the surface. And do the same with the outer wire, outmost one. Press it against the railing. Nice. Now it should look somewhat like this. Now the amount of tension you have in those wires will differ basically on any of your builds, I think, because just 1/10 of a millimeter in the height difference on the mast will make a difference here. But that's not that important, I think. It looks a bit more realistic when the ropes aren't perfectly straight, in my opinion. But if you want to, as you see here, okay, maybe you don't, from the side view, those are bulging a bit. I think I don't want that, so I will snip off just maybe a millimeter here, so they don't sit on the, like on this decking basically. Yeah, they're a bit too long. That means I put them on a bit crooked. So I will also cut off 1 millimeter here. That should fix the problem. Yeah, it does. They sit on much straighter. That's how I like it. So yeah, now they don't bulge like they would be under pressure, but are more straight like they're under tension, as it's realistical. But as you please. Right, Then I push the part out of view, and we will continue with the back wires. I will again start with the one closest to the mast. This is this single wire. Is it a frame? Yes, it is. This will sit basically just parallel to the mast, roughly 1 centimeter out from this line. It can be different on each build because, as I said, some millimeters are tens of millimeters. And inaccuracy makes a huge difference here. So I will put some glue on and let it sit right there. Do the same on the other side. Take the closest cable to the mast, put a drop of glue on, set it so it's practically symmetrical, adjust them a bit. Next is the cable which looks like this. It splits into two. I'll just give it a bit of a pinch upwards here so they go to the right direction I want them to. And they will sit, let's say, basically on the inner side of the railings that will come here, and roughly on this corner also. If there's too much play, you can put a bit closer to the middle, like again 1 centimeter out from here will work nicely in my case. And it doesn't matter for model accuracy because it is not perfectly accurate to the original anyways, because it just couldn't fit with the size of the deck. So now in my case they're a bit short, so I will push them completely against this wall so they just sit nice and strong. Same on the other side. Look that they are kind of parallel to each other. I think that's what matters most here. Oh, I have some excess glue. Then we go on to the outermost cables, which are a bit more tricky than the one we just did. You basically have to turn them so the line which is kind of straight, or which continues on straight, will be facing backwards. So they have to have a small twist in them. This end will be on this corner. I'll already put some glue on. Then we'll press it down. And there is some tension on it, so it might be necessary to clamp it down, which is a bit of a pain in the ass with such a small piece. But there was no other way to really do it because of the variations in different prints. check if it works with the clamp. No, I think it doesn't. So I have to hold it down for a few seconds until the glue cures a bit. Like the front part of this rope will go to the next corner here. You can also add some glue there. Press it on the decking as well. Now they stay in place. I will do the same on the other side. Add some glue to them. Turn them so the straight going wire faces back. And pull them down on the decking. I will have to turn it the whole assembly so I can get to it a lot easier. And I will just sit here and hold this one down for a few minutes until the glue hardens. Could be needed in your case too. Could be working as is. You never know. So we'll see in a few minutes for the next step. So according to the last step where we glued those on, I made some changes in the model. I can't show them to you, but I can tell you. So those thicker pieces are gone now. The wires are just a bit longer, and the holes where they go will be pre-printed. So there will be small holes at the right positions. And you just proceed as we did by gluing those top pieces together. But later when it comes to adjusting the wires, you give them to the right hole. And if it's too loose, you cut a bit of the wire, maybe a millimeter or so, to make it straight. Put some glue on, push it in the hole, done. Now, as preparation for the next step, where we'll need this part and this longer part, like the straight one, we will just connect them with those two pieces, which will have to go together like this. Pay attention that this small hook here points in the same direction as this bow does, where all those wires connect. We do that twice. For both sides we do it. And just for symmetry reasons, I will lay both of those pieces flat on the ground, put some glue on this long straight strip, on top of the other one. You want to make sure that those thicker pieces here align good, and that this wire and this wire form a straight line. I will do the same on the other side. It just mirrored basically. And I let the glue cure before I start adding them to the masts. Now that the pieces have cured together, it's time to assemble them. Now they will look like this. They're connected this portion here. So they will basically sit like this, laying roughly 1 millimeter or so away from the outermost point of the masts, those sections, same on the front, and roughly 1 centimeter from the outside, on the inner side of the railing of the bridge section. So I recommend you use at least one cloth hanger on the back side here, as it will slip off easily before the glue is cured. So we will add a drop of glue on the inner side of the hook. Do the same at the front. In your version the hook will be more defined, so it sits easier. And we put some glue on this side of the lowest point. Now we can start by pushing it on here, or laying it on there, maybe a better word. Doing the same at the back. Pushing it on there. Lifting it on the inside of the bridge here, the bridge wing. And it looks like it will be holding on its own, so I don't have to put a cloth hanger there. Just make sure that I have it like I want it. Looks fine, roughly 1 centimeter here, roughly 1.5 mil here, and the back also 1.5 mil. So I will do the exact same on the other side of the boat, of the superstructure. Add some glue again on the surface where it will lay on the mast. And on this inner side, I will sit on the bridge. And it does also sit on its own. That's perfect. So now I can let the glue cure. And while the glue cures, I will cut my M5 threaded rod to length. That will be 4 rods with 30 millimeters one with 90, one with 125, and no, sorry, two with 125, and one with 143 millimeters in length. The numbers are in the written manual as well.